The scent of warm frosting and vanilla drifted out of the little bakery on Main Street as the rain tapped softly on the windows. Evening had settled over the city, cold and gray, and the golden light inside the shop looked like something from another world, a world she didn't belong to. The girl stood there for several minutes, her thin sweater soaked through, shoes more holes than leather. Every time the door opened and laughter spilled out, her stomach growled a little louder. She'd walked for miles that day, hoping for work, for food, for something, anything. But all she had was a single crumpled dollar in her pocket and the weight of a promise she'd made to her little brother. She pressed her palm against the glass, staring at a 3-tier cake inside the display. "Danny would love that," she whispered. 7 candles, blue frosting, strawberries on top, her brother's favorite. His birthday was today, but all she had managed was half a loaf of stale bread. When the baker came out to throw trash into the dumpster, she took a shaky step forward. Her voice barely rose above the rain. "Excuse me, sir, do you have any expired cake?" The man turned, eyebrows knitting. "Expired?" he repeated. She nodded quickly, embarrassed, her hands twisting together. "It doesn't have to be fresh. Just my brother's birthday. I thought maybe something you can't sell." The baker hesitated, glancing at her soaked clothes and trembling lips. Then he sighed and disappeared inside. Moments later, he came back with a small brown bag. "It's not expired," he said gently, "just leftovers from an order we canceled. Here." Her eyes widened as she accepted the bag with both hands like it was treasure. "Thank you, sir, really. It's for Danny. He's turning 7 today." She smiled for the first time, a tired, fragile smile that still carried light, and then she ran down the street, barefoot, splashing through puddles. Across the road, sitting in a sleek black car, a man had seen everything. Ethan Cole, billionaire CEO of Cole Technologies, was supposed to be reviewing quarterly reports before dinner with a senator. But he hadn't heard a word his assistant said for the past 10 minutes. His eyes had followed the girl, the way she bowed her head when she asked, the way she ran off with a bag of old cake, as if she'd won the lottery. Something in that image broke through the steel walls he'd built around himself. "Follow her," he told his driver. They drove through the rain until the car stopped at the edge of an abandoned lot. Ethan stepped out, ignoring the puddles soaking his shoes, and followed her from a distance. She disappeared into a crumbling building, light flickering from a single candle inside. Peering through a crack in the door, he saw her kneeling beside a boy, small, thin, wrapped in a worn blanket. "Happy birthday, Danny," she said softly, pulling out the little cake. It was just a single slice, but she lit a stub of a candle and smiled. "Make a wish." The boy closed his eyes and whispered, "I wish we had a home again, Leela." Ethan felt something twist inside him. The girl Leela smiled, even though her eyes were shining with tears. "We will. Mama said the stars listen when we're kind." Then she cut the slice into 2 equal parts, handing one to her brother and keeping the other. They clinked their plastic forks together like champagne glasses. "Happy birthday, little man." Ethan turned away, heart pounding. He hadn't felt this kind of ache in years. He'd grown up poor too, before the money, before the boardrooms and private jets. His mother used to say the same thing about the stars, that kindness was a kind of light that always found its way back to you. He'd forgotten that somewhere along the way. That night, Ethan didn't go to his dinner. He didn't return calls or check emails. Instead, he sat by his penthouse window, city lights glittering below him, and thought about the girl who asked for expired cake. By morning, he had made a decision. When the bakery opened again, it wasn't just the smell of bread that greeted the morning. Outside, sleek black cars lined the street. Ethan stood near the counter, waiting. The baker looked puzzled. Billionaires didn't visit corner shops unannounced. But Ethan simply smiled and said, "You gave a girl a bag yesterday. I'd like to meet her." As if summoned by fate, Leela appeared moments later, holding Danny's hand. She looked nervous when she saw the cars, her fingers tightening around her brother's. Ethan stepped forward. "You asked for expired cake yesterday," he said gently. "Today, you'll have fresh ones." Leela blinked. "Sir, I can't. We don't need charity." Ethan knelt to Danny's level, smiling softly. "What did you wish for yesterday?" Danny looked at him shyly. "A home." Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, placing it in the boy's hands. Inside was a silver key attached to a tag that read Unit 6B, Maple Street Residences. "Then happy birthday, Danny," Ethan said quietly. "Wish granted." Leela's eyes filled with tears. "You can't just, sir. Why are you doing this?" Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "Because once, someone gave me a meal when I had nothing, and I promised I'd return that kindness someday. You reminded me of that promise." Leela shook her head, overwhelmed. "We'll pay you back, I swear." Ethan smiled faintly. "You already have." A week later, the story spread everywhere. Photos of Ethan Cole with 2 orphans, a new charity launched in their name. The headlines called it the Star Wish Project, dedicated to helping homeless children and families rebuild their lives. Reporters praised him, shareholders called it a PR miracle, but for Ethan, it wasn't about reputation anymore. It was about remembering what mattered. Months later, he visited them again. Danny had started school. Leela was working at the bakery. She greeted him with that same fragile smile, only now it carried strength too. "He's doing great," she said proudly. Ethan looked at the boy laughing in the park and nodded. "So are you." Before leaving, Leela pressed something into his hand, a small cupcake with uneven frosting. "It's not much," she said, "but it's fresh." Ethan stared at it for a moment, realizing the circle had closed. The girl who once begged for expired cake was now giving him one, made with her own hands. That night, he placed the cupcake on his windowsill and whispered to the stars, just as his mother used to, thanking them for the girl who had unknowingly given him something no fortune ever could. A reason to feel human again.